Hi, welcome to ETRetail. We are doing a special discussion on how brands can build a sustainable business model. We are discussing with the D2C brands what they are doing in the field and how they are building the brands for the future. Why are we discussing D2C brands today? Because we have our e-commerce and digital native summit coming up on 9th and 10th of August in Bangalore. So before we start, let me tell you, sustainable business model is the future because that's the reason how the brands are going to survive. Otherwise, we have seen that many brands which came after COVID, either they were acquired or they had to shut their shops. So we have with us a wonderful panelist. We have Chirag Gupta, who is the founder of 4700 BC. Then we have Ankur Bhatia, who is the founder of Jimmy's Cocktails. And then we have Deepak Gupta, who is the co-founder of Bombay Shaving Company. Welcome you all to our discussion.
Thank you, Charu.
So, I want to know about your businesses. What brands are you running? What is the idea behind that? And how are you building them sustainable for the future? In just one line, if you can explain that.
So I think, so I'm the founder for 4700 BC. We started like a popcorn company, but when we found a gap in the Indian market where nobody was giving value to popcorn as it's supposed to give, right? Internationally, the popcorn is like a regular snack. In India, it was very limited to certain sections, cinemas and rediwalas of the country. So we found a gap and we thought, let's start with this. I think slowly we realized that there's a lot of opportunities in the snacking space. There is a lot of products which are still not brought to India, not being seen in India, but doing well internationally. So I think we now understand at TG very well what they are looking for, what value we can bring to them. So I think just to build a sustainable business, I think we're just building our own TG, which understand our brand, understand our products, and keep delivering more and more to them. I think we just want more share from their pocket when they spend on snacks. That's how we're trying to build it up.
What about you, Ankur?
So I'm the founder of Jimmy's Cocktails, as the company is more popularly known now. But what we started was basically with a simple ethos that if you look at across categories, look at fashion, look at real estate, look at automobiles, even spirits, there are price tiers in, depending on your demographic, depending on your price income. You can enter any category at any point. You can buy a Alto or you can buy a Volvo also. The Indian packaged beverages industry, however, was stuck at a sub 20 rupee price point, with the larger players like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, obviously playing a very dominant volume game. There were a few global energy drink brands that we saw were obviously, were 5x of that price. And we realized that India, and this is very unique to India, and there was no premium beverage as an industry. So we set up a multi-beverage brands company in India. The first brand we launched was Jimmy's Cocktails, which is now relatively known. And more recently, we've launched Hustle Energy Drink. And I think we'll see a lot more launches coming from our company.
That's nice. Deepak, what about you?
So I think the thesis of our origin was that pressure on looking good in India has always been on women, right? But in last 10 years, I think that pressure has started shifting to men a lot more, just because you now can't marry a woman out of your league. Pressure on being social on Tinder, right swipes, on social media, right, being presentable has gone up significantly. I think that was the thesis, and we started with shaving because that's the largest category, single incumbent, not innovating. And so we started with the thesis of adding that joy to the act of shaving, which was moving towards the act of brushing, where you just kind of want to brush off your teeth and move on with your daily chores, right? So that's where we started. But now we have two brands: Bombay Shaving Company, which is men's hair removal and personal care brand, and Bombay, which is the women hair removal and personal care brand. Now I think talking about sustainability, large categories, single incumbent, not innovating, we are digital first. I think that's where we are kind of connecting with the new age consumers and building the business.
So to build a sustainable business model, I feel that innovation is at the cusp of it, because when I see all your products, all the three brands have innovated in some or the other way to get the bigger pie of the industry that way. One thing I would like to know, how can brands win consumers for lifetime? Chirag, if you can tell us about that, because that is also an important ingredient to build a sustainable business model.
So I think one, I think the brand has to be very clear what are they communicating to a customer, right? So whether it is product, whether it is a value to a consumer, that something has to be clearly communicated to a customer. So for us, we are delivering innovation, we are delivering new age products, right? And if that customer connects with the brand in the same space, right, I think they will hang on to the brand, right? So tomorrow, if I launch a new product, our customer will look forward ki, this brand is known for this, they launch something new, let's try it, right? So I think that's how they will keep coming back. There are some customers who wants value, right? So there are people like Pepsi, Balaji, who are driving on the value, right? So if Balaji today launches a 100 rupees popcorn packet, I think people may not connect with them, right? Whereas they launch a 5-10 rupees popcorn packet, they will definitely go for that. So I think the brand has to connect, have a clear communication what they're delivering to a customer. And I think if that communication is clear in the customer mind, they will keep coming back for the same reason, right? So I think that communication is really key with the customer.
No, absolutely. I think the concept of LTV or lifetime value works differently in different segments. As you go more premium up the ladder, we in fact believe on the reverse that the positioning has to be so sharp, like Jimmy's, right? It's a very specific occasion-based product. It's not a Coca-Cola that you drink every day, right? You have a specific occasion for that. You have guests at home, or you want to relax, have a relaxed evening. You can't go to the bar. You're at home. You're entertaining friends. Similarly, the energy drink category we've launched a very specific occasion. You're awake at night, either you are at a party or you are at home studying, working, whatever. So there are specific need occasions. So these are not lifetime value products by design. They're actually sharply focused on a particular need state. As a company, however, we are actually looking at the whole journey of beverage consumption from a very early age. Let's say when you're a 5 to 10-year-old, or what are the snacking needs? Can beverages replace that? India by design is a very low per capita consumption in terms of packaged beverages. You go to America, even everything is supersized. We don't do that. We are happy having our chai at home, right? So I think that's what we're trying to disrupt. That's what we're trying to change. And but I think in your business, LTV would work slightly differently. You can upsell as you go along.
Yeah. And repeat rate become an important metrics. That's something we track. So that's why you spend a lot of money on acquisition, but kind of make sure that the LTV is intact. That's a metric that becomes important. I think in our category, one of the good thing or the bad thing is that men as a consumer, if we talk Bombay Shaving Company, are kind of very hard to engage, right? But easy to please, right? So I think that's the job we have taken, because men's personal care has been always an under-penetrated category, right? So the pressure on educating consumer has always been on the brand than the consumer itself. So we have spent a lot of time in educating consumers on what to use, how to use. So when we started the business, we used to sell a lot of regimen kits, right? Because consumer is not aware what to use. For example, we have a 6-part shaving kit, right? This is not only about a razor or a foam. It also had a pre-shave scrub. It has a post-shave balm. This had a badger brush. Similarly, we had a charcoal facial kit for men, which again has a face wash, scrub, mask. So just making sure that consumer kind of try, understand, and then kind of evolve into using different products over lifetime value. That's something we have been building. And important to try. And second mega trend that has happened, accelerated by COVID, is all the focus towards self-care, self-love. The role of ingredient sustainability has been growing. So we kind of make sure that the innovation is kind of in line with that. For example, we have a shaving foam which is turmeric, which is coffee, apple cider vinegar, etc. So a lot of innovation also happening on the products which has been plain vanilla for a long time. So, and that's how I think we have been kind of engaging with the consumers.
Also, I think the consumers are changing. So if you look at, the way I would use grooming products, right? Whatever is available, whatever my wife is buying, I'll still use that. I don't think I'm as engaged with the category. But probably very different from a Gen X, early Gen X or a late Gen Z sort of consumer who's a lot more involved with the category and is a lot more concerned than what we were back, when we were young. I still don't know the name of shampoo I use.
A very good point. In fact, when we were in college, I think typically, and we all would have lived in hostel at some point of time, we used to have 2-3 products, maybe a soap, a shampoo, or at max a deo, right? But now if you go to a hostel, you will see 10 to 12 products. You will have a trimmer, you will have a razor, you will have 2-3 kind of deos, perfumes, skincare products, right? So the new age consumer is kind of very different from what
And
we
our
are.
times we used to just use our sister's shampoo ki
Exactly, yeah.
jo
I
wo
still
use
do.
kare.
It's just
So, but I tell you, the
It's the
things are
wife's not
changing
sister.
right now. I've seen at my personal, I'm at my home also. So there used to be a time when my husband used to wash his face and to say, "I'm ready." But now he's using AM cream and PM cream differently. So this is how things are changing. So coming back to the topic, sustainability, sustainable building, sustainable business. Tell me, what is the role of logistics in that in building a sustainable business? Why is there a need to build a robust logistics system?
See, I think if you see India as a sector, right, it is largely retail, right? GT, MT kind of, and it's all dependent on supply chain. You might get stock out of one shop, you might be available in one shop. So, how soon can you deliver to that shop that your merchandising is done properly, your availability is 100%. I think that's the key, right? I think long term, I think one of the most important function which we realize in our company is now supply chain to ensure we are available at most places timely. And I think one of the best example is if you see during COVID, right? Most of the startups really, didn't do any business in 3-4 months because they were hard on the supply
Yeah.
chain. But all the large FMCG companies relatively still sustained, right? So I think that's one of the key factors, even growing internationally, even growing domestically, that the product should be consistently visible on the shelf. I think that's the key, and and if that is done properly, I think then the sales will automatically happen. We actually lose a lot of sales at times where one of our fast-moving SKUs is gone out on the shelf, but the other products are there. But वो delivery नहीं हो रही है, बंदा वहाँ पे पहुँच नहीं रहा है. So I think those kind of challenges is something which we are trying to resolve. But I think if somebody wants to build a retail business in India, it cannot be done without a strong supply chain team.
Yeah, if you look at the FMCG universe in India, it's almost 500,000 to 800,000 outlets, shops out there, right? And unlike the West, we are a very small per throughput outlets. So, some small panwalas or small mom and pop shops where the per outlet throughput is very low. As a country, we're designed to have number of outlets.
Yeah.
So it's only natural that, you will have to have a supply chain where how do you deliver in time? And most of these outlets will buy small drops, but they'll buy it frequently. A lot of them, in fact, as you go deeper, which is more what the Hindustan Unilever has created, where they actually deliver the product in the morning so that they get sold in the day, and then the next day they'll
Because the
deliver
shops
again.
are also doesn't have too much cash flow, right? So
Neither do they have cash flow, nor do they have space, right? And even if they have a fridge, which is also a very small universe, then they have a very small fridge. So now everybody wants to get inside the same fridge. So that's the nature of the outlet. Unlike you go to West, where there's a large Walmart or a Costco, where you can just have abundance of products kept stored at very time. So I think that India's geography and India's design of retail sort of defines the efficacy of the supply chain robustness that that all startups need.
just to add to what he said, right? And one of the biggest challenges happens if you're not on the shelf, somebody else takes your space, right? There is always somebody fighting for that space shelf, right? So if you're consistently there, you build your own identity in that shop. But if you're irregularly available, then you lose consumer mind space also. So, yeah.
No, completely agree with I think what Chirag and Ankur mentioned, that availability is the holy grail, right? Because you want to be available where consumer is, and India being a complex distribution network, I think because you have e-grocery, you have general trade, you have modern trade, which is still growing but not become large, and then you have this entire e-commerce, D2C, and institutional, right? So how do you make sure that kind of and widely spread, and each, like, their different regions behave very differently. Like in food, I can understand it will be even more complex because you have perishability. You can't be in the supply chain itself for a couple of months and then get into the shelf, because by that time 25-30% life is already over. But in our case, at least we have a higher shelf life. I think I will divide this into 2-3 parts. The last part, which is the last mile logistics, I think when we started 6-7 years back, it was very difficult. I still remember 20% orders used to go through speed post, right? Somebody will go to post office and kind of send the orders. I think that ecosystem has evolved a lot, right? Consumer information and the machine learning through on that information has been kind of, now a lot of players have come in who is telling us which consumers you should do COD, which consumer you should not do COD, where RTO can come, etc. I think a lot of those things have got solved so that brand can actually focus on brand building and innovating and giving quality products to the consumer. I think also what is required is the warehousing capability to manage multiple channels. I think that's also requires certain technology to manage this multi-channel behavior. Otherwise, the risk of sending wrong product or not shipping on time, etc., becomes high. Because like in our business, we do for D2C you need to create a lot of combos, right? But and for e-commerce you need to create a lot of combos. But for GT you need to set full cases. Similarly, a lot of those customization are required. So build capability around that. We also do a lot of personalization. For example, on our razor, we engrave the name of the consumer, or on our trimmer, we engrave the name of the consumer. So all those capabilities have been built over a period of time. Because consumer nowadays, when they're buying from a brand, they want to have a feeling that it is for me, right? So how do, as a brand, while I grow, I scale, but also maintain that agility which was there 6 years back in terms of personalization doesn't go. So and those things are important, but technology and ecosystem is really helping us to kind of do better on those fronts.
So, Deepak, you have touched upon a very good point, which is technology. So, technology and data, customer data, right? So, how technology and customer data actually help the brand build a sustainable business model? Ankur, I'll ask this from you.
See, I think the way I've been in marketing most of my life, I've had various jobs, right? Data is used very differently. When you are in a retail business, obviously you need to track your sales data on a store level, distributor level, state level, SKU level, right? Only then you can make right decisions. In the performance marketing world, which is the more D2C world, you have to track the consumer journey, and there is actually, in fact, if you ask me, there's abundance of data. The issue is not having the data now. It's how beautifully can you drive the insight. How beautifully can you analyze in it? So we live in a very data-heavy world right now. But I think somewhere in the whole world of data, what a lot of brands I see, young brands that are missing right now, is the ability to just understand the consumer and be close to the consumer. There is still a certain old school charm in sitting with your consumers, talking to them, understanding their need states, which sometimes a black and white data files don't give you. They don't give you the analytics, the consumer need states behind. You read it raw. So I think a healthy balance between having a deep understanding of data and ability to drive insights out of it, yet being close to your consumer and talking to them on a very personal one-on-one level. I think both have to go hand in hand for you to build something sustainable and long-term.
So when you talk about customer and going omnichannel and touching them across the touch points, so I want to know from you, Chirag, what do you think is the right time for a brand to go omnichannel? Because all the three brands I'm talking to you right now are omnichannel brands.
So I think in today's world, I think once omnichannel is the key, right? I think especially in food industry, I think cosmetics works little differently, but I think especially in food, where online deliveries and online is very limited, right? And you're not able to reach the most of the customers. I think what brands can do is they can do a small test trial on D2C world and see how the product reaction is, take the initial feedback on the set of users they want to target. But I think they need to go omni-channel. I think with the quick commerce, especially in food industry, Amazon Fresh, Flipkart Super, I think we can do that first 2 years easily through the whole e-commerce world. But I think then they have to get into the retail side. But I think retail also, somebody has to be very careful. They cannot think of going pan-India in day one, right? I think they have to do very small test cases. So for example, we were trying to do something what, Kurkure does, 10-20 rupees product. But we thought we'll only do like South Delhi, right? As specific as that. Because once we understand we are able to do that piece better, we understand what's happening in that segment, then only we can expand. Because retail is crazily expensive to expand, right? So somebody has to be very, very detailed level, understand what consumer is looking for. Is the product really clicking? Is your marketing really working? It has to be done on a very small subset, right? And so our goal is, if you do South Delhi better, then we probably do whole Delhi, then we probably do NCR, then we do North India, and then probably maybe raise funds and say, let's do South and West together, because now we understand one part of the country very well, right? So I think retail, somebody has to be very patient. They cannot think कि हमने D2C में pan India delivery कर दी है, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, everything we are available. We can go retail wise also. That I think that's a wrong approach, and I think India is not a modern trade country. We're very limited in modern trade. So I think somebody has to just think GT, but has to be very, very, very limited in their start, and then grow from there, right?
So, Deepak, as he said that, I mean, it is not necessary for cosmetics brand to be omni-channel. So, what do you have to say about that? I mean, somehow I feel that it is more personal touch that the consumers try and then they buy the
I said
cosmetics.
from a viability perspective, right? Food is normally at 150 rupees price point, where online delivery becomes a challenge, right? Which is not really the case with them because the ticket size are much bigger.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they still have to go on.
I completely, I think, well, Chirag has covered most of the points, but I think more than while personal touch is important, for us, touch points are more important. Because that gives you scale. And frankly speaking, the modern trade and e-commerce put together, especially in men's personal care and even women hair removal, the categories we are in, is only 15% of the overall category, right? 85% still sits in GT, right? So if you really want to get into 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 crore brand, you have to do it. There is, I think, no escape from that, because for consumer to come online or even acquire consumer online is going to be expensive, right? It's getting more expensive.
Yeah.
So I think to your question on when brands should go omni-channel, I think in our experience, maybe first 10 to 15 crore, it's better to do on your own D2C, understand consumer cohorts, what's working, what's not working, establish certain product market fit, then maybe expand to e-commerce, e-grocery, those channels, kind of go to more pin codes, increase the availability. Because see, everything we are talking is you're building inventory at some point of time. Your money, you need more working capital as you expand more touch points, right? And for a startup or a early stage business, getting working capital is very tough, right? So how do you manage it efficiently? It's very easy. No retailer says no if you are putting stock on SOR, right? Which is, he will pay you when the stock sells. That's the easiest thing, right? But getting money is a difficult task. So I agree with Chirag that, and then when you start thinking modern trade or GT, I will say even modern trade, maybe try with one customer, do a very controlled setup with a promoter in the store, because at least you are able to interact with the consumer and kind of observe. And then maybe within that city only, you start creating certain pull for the brand, which is starting doing a lot of BTL, ATL activation in the city, then go to more stores in the same city, GT stores. So retailer is seeing certain velocity with the brand, because if you go without velocity, one is you are not able to get a favorable terms in terms of margins or even the right shelf space, right visibility in the store. And once you establish that product market fit in a modern trade and in few select stores in GT, maybe then expand to more cities, which is again very similar to that city, and then keep scaling up rather than trying to go all out and have your stock in as many touch points. And that's something we have learned and have worked.
So, Ankur, one more thing which is more important is managing your funds sustainably to build a sustainable business model. So, how can brands manage their funds in a sustainable manner?
If we knew that, if everybody knew that. No, okay, I'll take up from where he left off, right? I've been part of the FMCG, CPG goods industries almost all my life, right? Over to 20 odd years, and similar industry that he comes from, right? The word omni-channel is something I've heard more in the last 2-3 years than I've never heard in my life, right? See, when we started as a retail first operation, because I knew it for a fact that when I want to buy Coca-Cola or Pepsi, I don't go to coca-cola.com. I buy it from the Panwala next door, right? So there was no D2C play in beverages. Certain categories are not built like that. And also the price point is very small. And then when we started, this was, around early 2020, and then COVID happened. We were forced to become a D2C brand because retail was shut, right? And then those days, all we were here was, the new era is D2C and everything is going to be D2C. And well, okay, if COVID, you could do nothing. So you played ball. And then when, suddenly the D2C brand started, from a huge spike as COVID went down, the brand started going down, the cost of acquisition started going up. Suddenly the new word came omnichannel. So omnichannel actually, as a word that we hear so much now, is a newly coined word, right?
So I tell you, there were brands which were planning to go omnichannel from a really long time. They were, in between, somewhere in the journeys, but COVID accelerated the plans.
Yeah, they had no choice, because the brands who were D2C only realized that they were not getting business from D2C.
Yeah.
So they realized, but the only issue with them that happened was that it's easy to say to get into retail, but retail is a beast in itself. In retail will eat you alive, and chew you dry if you don't really understand, have experience doing it, right? And it's going to be very expensive that way. I think the way I look at the whole omni-channel approach, which means basically multiple channels, is that end of the day, you have a product, and it's your duty to take it to the right consumer. The quickest, the fastest, and the most convenient way you can take it to the consumer, right? And that could be any channel. If D2C is the channel that serves you better, so be it. If quick commerce is the channel, so be it. If retail is the channel, so be it, right? We put a lot of pride, energy, and capital into building these products, and we have to take it closest to the consumer, to the right consumer. That is where I think, what Deepak said was right, is that what D2C as a channel allows you is to study that consumer. And in fact, he also said that you don't do a small pilot. You can actually go online and do a South Delhi pilot only if you believe that your product is South Delhi. But if you believe that your product is Lucknow, you can actually sit in your office here and then do a pilot in Lucknow, understand that consumer, understand what he's buying, how much can he, uptrade, how much can he downtrade, all those things, and then go into retail is probably the best strategy. But omni-channel as it is doesn't make any sense, because you should be present to as many touch points as your manpower, as your capital, cash flow, and your abilities allow.
True. I'm again coming back to my question, managing the funds in a sustainable way.
Good answer.
So I want the answer to that
Ankur is saying over the drink.
No, I think it's a tricky art, I have to admit. Because the hunger for growth is inbuilt in all founders, right? We all want to grow. There is no second to that. And growth at times requires capital, and we've all raised capital in our times, right? But I think maintaining a healthy balance of growth versus it's an acquired art. I don't know if I could even answer that in one line, unless you want to take a stab at it. What I can tell you is that in every company that I've worked for, we've launched products internally. I've worked in automobiles, worked in spirits, mobile phone companies. The break-even period, even in established corporates, for a particular P&L used to be 3 to 4 years, right? So even within large companies, when you launch a new product, when you have all HR and office and admin and all other distribution RTM already set, even then when you launch a new product, right, that product category itself would take a break even within 3 years. So I think it's safe. I think there is a lot of word about profitability. Profitability at a unit level should be very, very important. You have to have healthy gross margins. But somewhere, if you look at the brands that we use, our classic brands have been built over decades, right? Our responsibility is to build these brands fast. So they have to be invested behind. So I think for me, what sustainable means is that you have to be profitable at a unit level at all times, but you should also not shy away from investing behind the brand, because at the end of the day, great brands is what we are building now, which will last the test of time.
So I'll take a cue from what he said, Deepak, that if we talk about startups, they are actually disrupting the categories and not building sustainable brands these days. And when you talk about the established brands, they concentrate more upon profitability and building sustainable brands. How do you think that the new age brands can also go the way the established brands have been going?
I think at least this year has forced the new age brands also to go the same way.
Yeah, there's no choice.
There's a lot of focus on profitability because the capital is limited, right? So when capital is limited, you start kind of getting more frugal, efficient, etc. So it's a mindset shift. I think earlier everybody was talking about growth. Now it's growth and efficiency going together. So that's happening. I think it's more the way startups work. There's a lot of agility in the way startup works. There's a lot of experimentation that kind of drives the fuel within the team. A lot of hustle that happens, right? That drives. I think, but what is also important is just to kind of catch up with the growth. You kind of don't repeat your mistakes or do mistakes which others have done and then you are kind of doing, just to kind of live to the valuation. I think valuation is, and we are seeing a lot of examples in the industry that there are brands which have raised money at very high valuation and now trying to live up to that. And when you try to do that, then actually you burn money. I think the current market is teaching all the brands to kind of build brand more sustainably and take investments call accordingly. I think that's the change of the time. I think I also have a big respect for large brands like Unilever. In last 2 years, their new brands. I'm not taking new products. New brands have added 2,000 crore to the top line, right, in 2 years. Right. So I think different companies are also doing in their own way. But how do you think about it and drive it? What makes a difference? Yeah.
So Chirag, I want to ask a different question from you. When the brands raise funds to grow further, so what is the right way? I mean, dissolving their own equity or raising a debt, and why?
So I think debt is not something possible in initial stages for a startup. I think they have to dissolve equity initially, but I think it's a most valuable thing, right? Equity, so somebody has to protect it also very well. But I think just to bring it from where they left, I think one of the things they can manage funds better and make sure their equity is also limited. I think mistake which we have also done, other startups have also done. I think we get, Ankur is doing this, let's do this also. I think he must be doing something very fancy there. I think we get distracted a lot of times, but I think keep doing one thing properly, I think is the key, right? Having your unit economics show properly in that channel. So if you're doing D2C, do it properly, right? Don't think I want to do retail in parallel and let's do institution also in parallel. Let's not think of all those things, right? So if you do D2C properly, you might be one of those brands who can build it on very well, right? If you're doing retail and you want to focus on retail, do it properly. And as I said, do it a small sector, show that you are doing well in that area, and then properly raise money, right? So I think getting distracted, and which is I think part of our DNA also as a founder, that sab kuch karna hai, right? But I think keep it minimized. Don't get haywire. Do everything. You would be able to raise, I think, better money, better valuation. Probably have less. I think debt is something you can do down the line when you need working capital. I think your business is growing. You have a better unit economics. You don't think you don't need to. Now you can get somebody to give you debt also because your P&L is looking good, right? And you don't need to go to an investor and say, I want to give equity. I think that's where a stage where you should look at something like this. But I think early stage, you don't have much option. Nobody will give you debt also initially. But I think just keeping your focus very clear, I think is the goal. I think that's the key.
So I guess we have discussed all the ingredients of how to build a sustainable brand. If you think I've missed upon something, or maybe as a closing remark, you would like to share something one by one, it would be great.
Continuing to the points that are going on, is that by design we don't sell most startups in India are premium products. 4700 BC popcorn is more premium to the Balaji popcorn by design, right? Or Lux may have a soap. I don't think Bombay will ever launch a soap at Lux price point, or will you? I don't know.
No, we have it 10x the price.
So exactly 10x the price, right? So by design, you are unit level profitable. So by startups, there is no reason for you to be not profitable, right? Yes, you have to set up the company from scratch, which you have to hire an office, hire HR, hire admin, hire staff. Initial days, you have to put some capital up ahead. Right, that's the capital you raise. But as you get into your third, fourth year, there is no reason for you to not having to break even. And then what he said, that if you even at that time, if you're burning too much capital and not burning rightfully, right, then there's something fundamentally flawed with the business model. Because if you're selling a soap at 10x, as he's saying, then you have already so much profit built into it. Either you're not selling it to the right consumer, or you're not selling it to the right place, or the whole piece of marketing, price positioning, promotion, something is not working for you to be not profitable at least at a product level, right? The company obviously has been invested, manpower has been hired. That takes 2-3 years to break even. But beyond that, if you're still running an unprofitable company, I think there is something that needs to be checked.
Deepak, any closing remarks?
I would just like to add on the people front, because I think to build a sustainable business, you also need to have the right team. Very important. Like on your last question, debt to equity, I think managing debt in a fast growing business, you need a very strong CFO. So yeah. I think it all starts from there. So I think one of the push to whosoever is watching is to at some stage get a very strong CFO or a commercial head who can actually help guide the business in far more sustainable way, and build a team which is kind of rock solid, understand the nuances of building the business, incentivize and motivated in the right way. And there's huge opportunity in India to build large scale businesses, but it will take time. It will not happen in a year. Yeah.
True. Chirag, your last point.
I think we touched upon this, but I think keeping customer data from day one and valuing the data, I think that's one of the things we realize कि हमने यार कहीं जाके popcorns बेचा है, right? But we probably don't have connect with that consumer. We probably don't know who's a customer in Chandigarh who's sitting there but still wants a popcorn, but we're not delivering to them. Maybe in a D2C world, it's still possible to have that data, but I think the data collection also has to be omni-channel, and that utilizing the data is the key, right? So one of the key things at an organization level we are doing now is any lead, any customer touch point, anywhere we think of has to be collected, right? And this is something we want to do differently also. I don't know the perfect solution for this right now, but even if somebody is having a consumer pack in a home, right, can we invite that customer to get in touch with us, get that data, ensure we know that data. So I think that's something we're trying to do more and more. We do a lot of institutions very well. Is there a way we can get those institution data and keep talking to that customer? So I think because we are building a brand which is not mass, we are creating a brand which is more mass premium. I think retaining that data and keeping reaching out to that customer is very important, right? One thing which really worked for us, and I think worked for all of these people also, I think, once we build a brand, we launch another product, we are able to probably the sales we have done with popcorn, and which took us 3 years, probably we've done something in 6 months. Probably because we have the data, we have that consumer who is reaching out to us. So I think that journey has to be much faster as we grow. So if HUL has built a 2,000 crores business in 2 years, probably they know which customers they are targeting, they know which customer lives in which territory, and they're very focused in targeting, right? So I think that's where we need to get smarter and smarter as we grow. This is like for us is like the clear goal for next 2 years to collect as much data as possible, at least for RTG.
So if you guys are building a sustainable business, where do you see your businesses two years from now, maybe? Last question from my side.
In terms of?
Inishram, where do you see your brand 2 years from now?
No, I think when I'll take this. We started disrupting the way Indians consume packaged beverages, right? By design, we want to create new, more healthier, lesser sugar options than what existed, right? So the category actually increases, and it's not left, because today the options are what we get at 20 rupees at a panwala. So I think for us, the measure of success would be that how popular our brands are. Jimmy's was a unknown brand 2 years ago. It's relatively known now. So for me, the measure of success is how popular the brand is and how profitable the business is.
Deepak.
For us will be, I think, acquiring 20 million new consumers for the brand.
That's nice. Chirag.
I think for us, we need to position the brand very clearly in the consumer mindset. I think obviously profitability numbers are equally key, but so today if you talk about Haldiram, people know ki 10-20 rupees ki bhujia ke packets. You have to go to market. The brand is Haldiram, for example. Or agar chips khane hai, to Balaji is the brand. I think so if somebody wants to talk about कि कोई अच्छा स्नैक्स खाना है, मास प्रीमियम अच्छा प्रोडक्ट खाना है, या अच्छे पॉपकॉर्न चाहिए, अच्छे चिप्स हैं, तो 47 BC should be the go-to brand. I think that's the positioning we want to build. If that is built, I think the other two factors, profitability and money, will make. I think that positioning has to be very clear in a consumer mind.
Thank you for coming to our show over here. And to be honest, we had a really insightful discussion today, and I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. I hope you guys also enjoyed the discussion the same way we have enjoyed it over here. If you loved it, then be a part of our e-commerce and digital native summit, which is happening on 9th and 10th of August in Bangalore. Till then, see you. Bye-bye.